This is Small Talk with Jill, exploring businesses and communities, one virtual interview at a time. Welcome to Small Talk, and I'm Jill, and today we're going to start with some fun facts. And the fun facts has to do with Route 20. You're probably asking, where is Route 20? Well, Route 20 is the longest road in the U.S., and it goes from Newport, Oregon to Boston, Massachusetts. It's 3,365 miles in length, and it goes through my hometown, and I am delighted. Today we will be talking with Alden, New York's historian, Karen Muchow, about Alden, New York, my little hometown. Welcome, Karen.
Good morning.
And look at this, I wore my school colors, blue and gold.
Did you know that they weren't always blue and gold?
Really?
Really?
I'm 100 years old. I didn't.
They were black and orange at one time.
What about the mascot? Bulldogs still is, correct?
Yes, but then it was a black cat, Felix, which I think was a cartoon character.
Oh, I do remember that. I remember Felix the cat, but not the fact that we were the colors and the mascot.
No, and I cannot find out when the switch was made. It was blue and gold when I went to school too, so.
Wow. Well, if anybody following this has any pieces of history, get it to Karen. So how should we start out about the history of Alden?
Well, you just talked about Route 20 going from actually east to west, the way it was built. And that's the way our earliest settlers came. Most of them came from New England. And as soon as this area was opened up for settlement after the survey of the Holland land purchase, they came from, our very earliest settler came from Massachusetts, and a whole bunch came from Lebanon, New Hampshire, and settled in Alden. And that first settler's name was Moses Fennell. Bought land in the fall of 1809, brought his family and settled in the spring of 1810, and was followed that summer by some more settlers from New England. Most of them would have had to travel what's now Route 5 to Batavia, because that's where the land office was.
So he went to Batavia, he purchased land, which is now what we consider Alden?
Village, yeah. The village of Alden is where he settled. There were some that bought property earlier in the northwestern part of the town, but there's no record of them settling. Moses, we know, settled. But poor Moses was killed in the Battle of Black Rock, which was part of the War of 1812. Black Rock was part of Buffalo, and he was killed in that battle in 1813. So he was not here very long.
What do you think drew them to this area?
I think a lot of them were on their way west, more west than we were. And this was a stopping off place. They were all farmers, just about all of them. The area was good for farming.
So when did the railroad, what's the history of the railroad? Because I grew up on Exchange Street, which is right the intersection of Route 20, or we call it Broadway, was a stone's throw away from the train station. So when did that come about?
The Erie Railroad, which that one originally was 1843. And then the New York Central Railroad was built through the northern part of the town in 1853. And then two more railroads were built in between. So there were 4 rail lines going through Alden at one time.
The rail station that I remember as a little girl, people got on and off, right? But it never was in use when I was growing up. But
it was the commuter train to Buffalo. The roads were pretty bad in the early years, and that's how people got back and forth to Buffalo. Plus all freight, all the farm products went into the city, and things came out from the city. The mail came by train. The newspapers came by train.
It's fascinating. That's fascinating to think about. And now in current days, you get on the road and it's a hop, skip, and a jump, so to speak, to Buffalo. It's funny. I was back in Alden a couple years ago, and it seemed quicker to Buffalo than what I remember as a little girl. It's just different. Time speeds up things, I guess. So I know another thing that Alden was known for and has deep history in, and I'm sure many of our viewers have never heard of this, but the Black Water. What is the history of the Black Water?
Well, we have to go back a little bit. And what grew Alden first was the discovery of natural gas in the area. And we had two industries come in very early in the 1900s. 1901, the New York Glass Works Company came, and that was located along the Erie Railroad. So they had ways of getting the raw materials for glass in and the bottles out that they made. They hand blown the bottles.
Really?
And at one time, they were shipping out 8 million bottles a year.
Back in...
Well, early 1900s, yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. That's an incredible number, even in current day.
Yeah, and they're mainly shoe polish bottles and canning jars that they'd made.
Wow, I never knew that.
It was right on Railroad Street.
Oh, so it was one of those buildings. I know when you grow up, sometimes when you grow up and you see these buildings, they're buildings because they've been repurposed and you don't realize the history behind it. That's fascinating.
Yeah, some of the buildings were still standing at the time of the centennial. They're all gone now. But also the other thing that came through was Bennett Manufacturing. That was 1906, and they are still in operation.
Bennett Manufacturing. That's
once it makes the metal products, yeah.
Garbage cans was one.
Garbage cans.
With a little flap.
We still got them. Anyways, they were drilling for natural gas, and they discovered a reservoir underground of black sulfur water. It was one of the few wells that didn't work for Mr. Westcott, who was in charge of the drilling. But they knew about people going to the waters in Europe as a method of being cured. So they had the water tested, and it was...
Cured as in like a spa cure type?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they had the water tested, and it turned out to be as good or better than the nearest Blackwater spa, which was in Michigan. And 1904, they built the first bathhouse for people to come to Alden to take baths in the Blackwater. Well, the first one actually burned, as so many things did then, because it was wooden and it was small, and it only had baths in it. It didn't have a hotel or anything attached to it.
Oh, okay.
Then a second one, the hotel near the railroad station built a bathhouse behind it and connected it to the hotel. So that was the second one. And then the first one built another building after theirs burned. And that lasted until about 1914. But a third one had also been built about 1912. So there were 3 bathhouses at one time, all giving baths. And
people traveling east and west.
And using the railroad to get there.
Wow.
So, yeah. And then the very first company that had the first bathhouse built a brick, very Lloyd Wright-ish looking. Although it's one of those mysteries, we cannot find the name of the architect. And
I'll put a picture because that still exists.
Yeah, that's now.
Actually, I went to preschool there.
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, that one's still standing. It's the St. Aidan's Episcopal Church now. They converted it into a church. Now
I can remember having a little bottle, it was, I think, given out during the centennial of black water. You would shake it up. So I wish I know I have it somewhere and I don't have it for this video.
Yeah.
It was like a little sample and the sediment was at the bottom, and you would shake it up, and, we kept it sealed because, it was a piece of history.
Yeah, they had opened one of the wells then, because the last bathhouse closed in 1965.
Maybe that's what I'm recalling, because I am old enough to remember that. So maybe that's what I'm recalling.
Yeah.
So up until 1965,
they were still in operation.
Wow.
But with all the new medications and specialized doctors, there just wasn't a need for the medicinal waters anymore.
But for as far as the economy, that was a big piece.
Big boost, yeah.
Until the 60s, which is not that long ago. That's moving forward. Let's go into the current time, because I know that you're a historian. You have a beautiful facility right on Main Street. Maybe you could tell our viewers, because we've already told them that Route 20, if you're ever traveling, it would be wonderful for you to stop in and visit in the small cozy hometown of Alden, our hometown of Alden, New York.
Yes, our Historical Society building, which belongs to the town actually, is in the village across from the bank, and it's on Route 20. And the house was given to the town for use as a museum in memory of Mr. Roberts. So we have a nice little house, probably built in the 1850s.
It's
upstairs
adorable.
And downstairs are open, and we've added a large room towards the back. I think it was in 1995. We needed more display space and also meeting space. They used to just meet in the parlor, which is quite small.
I've been following your Facebook page for many years, of course, because I'm once an Aldenite, always an Aldenite. And I know that the Historical Society has done some really interesting things. The purpose of those that are planning their trips now that we're opening up our communities across America slowly and safely, they can get a sneak peek of some of the Alden Historical Society through your Facebook page. Can you tell us a little about the tours, the inside tours that are being done?
Yes, we're trying to, stay alive. And we can't open yet. We're town building. We have to wait for the town to give us permission to open. And we don't know how that's going to be, what procedures we're going to have to follow. But my sister, who is the curator, did videos. She did one of the downstairs talking about the different displays we have. And then she just did one for the upstairs. And she talks.
So it's a virtual tour.
Yeah, it shows many of our things that are on display.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm not sure if you know this, Karen, but we're going to be talking to more small businesses in Alden, New York. We're going to be showcasing, and this is really the beginning of the tour of Alden, New York. So I invite you to follow their Facebook page, watch those videos, and when things open up and we are able to revisit these small towns, please stop in to charming Alden, New York, right there on Route 20, and check out the Historical Society. I couldn't be prouder to have grown up in such a beautiful community, and I'm looking forward to talking to more of the business owners, and we will be catching up with you again, Karen, because there's more history to be told.
Oh, there's a lot more.
But we wanted to give everybody a sneak peek into Alden, and we will catch you soon. Karen, I thank you so much for joining me today on Small Talk with Jill, and I look forward to our next visit to Alden virtually, if not in person.
Good. We'll be glad to have you back.
Take a moment here to subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any other updates from Small Talk with Jill.
Until next time, remember, here on Small Talk, we are connecting people to people and business to business.